Alright, what's going on, LPX Tech community? We're going to be starting the live stream here in a few minutes. But before we do, I'm going to go ahead and let me switch screens here. Whoop. There we are. Just want to go ahead and before I start the video here, for those of you who are watching the post recording of this, the beginning intro here, just want to let you guys know that obviously you don't have to sit down and listen for the whole hour, because I know that a lot of you don't have time to do so. I will be segmenting this live stream over the course of this week, so I do have a couple topic plans that I do want to talk about, and then I will be segmenting them out for you guys to be able to absorb and watch it in clips. Hopefully I'll keep it within 10 to 15 minutes per segment in the next hour or so you guys can go ahead and watch the ones you like. Then I'll definitely make sure to go ahead and link them down below. Obviously you'll see them throughout the week. But without further ado though, let's go ahead, for those of you who are either joining me live or or decide to watch the full version, or just listening to me in your car, as some of you guys do, welcome back to LPX Tech, guys. I will apologize for some of the background noise. I am currently in my store. We're going to be open for another hour or so I do have customers actually right off to the side here and behind me all the way in the back. I also do apologize for some of the audio feedback in the back here. We're working with some new equipment, so we're going to be going through some changes and whatnot. Obviously you see all the green screens behind me. My store has been going through a lot of changes in terms of doing a lot more live streaming for games and everything like that, as well as I'm going to be doing a lot more live streaming here on YouTube a little bit more often. I don't have time to do recorded edited videos for you guys too often, but I can at least do these, and my editor or the person who's handling my streams is she's gonna dedicate some time to go ahead and update this channel for you guys by segmenting these live streams for you. But with that said, today's video is going to be talking about actually what some of you guys have been asking me on my private messages, Facebook, and also in the video comments, talking about a couple different topics for the 2017 holiday season. Now, I know I was going to release more videos last week after my Razer phone video, but I got really sick during that week, and I'm actually still fighting it right now, but I'm better enough that I can at least do this video for you guys. But today I want to go ahead and talk about what I want to talk about last weekend. Just go over a few topics. So we're going to be going over, first and foremost, affordable smartphones. I know a couple of you asked me, you guys like the whole, the new iPhone X and the Note 8 and all these new phones, but obviously a lot of us are going through some tough times and can't afford a $1,000 phone. But are there good alternatives out there that will suffice? And I'm going to be talking about those. I'm going to be talking about my recommendations for new smartphones, including the iPhone X, both why you should get it and why you shouldn't, not just the iPhone X but other phones, and which phone that I would actually recommend getting. I know I was going to make a series out of it, but it's just better for me to just go ahead and talk, just do it straightforward. And then from there I'm going to be talking about smartwatches. So I know a lot of people are asking me about smartwatches since I've been dubbed the king. Well, not dubbed, but I've dubbed the Gear Ass, the original one, the king, and that's pretty much what got me started on YouTube, smartwatches. And then I'll be talking about virtual reality units, because several of them have gone on sale. I know a lot of you have been really interested in that, and if I have time afterwards, I'll be talking about other pieces of tech that I've personally been interested in, as well as stuff that I think a lot of you might want to check out. And then at the end, if I have time, I'll talk about Tesla. Obviously, I do want to talk about Tesla a little bit. But with let's go ahead and dive in. And I have a couple of people joining me live, so thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys can let me know how the sound sounds. This is my first time using this equipment, so I like to know how it's coming through, at least on the YouTube side of things. But let's go ahead and dig into bargain phones. So for the 2017 holiday season, there are a lot of deals going around. Just in my brief research looking around just on the topic, there's been a lot of deals from all the manufacturers, especially the retailers like Best Buy. And just first and foremost, if you're looking at the Go phones, essentially, a lot of people are like, well, I can't afford to buy a $1,000, $800 phone. The $20 a month financing is a little bit out of the question as well. For those of you who are looking for really cheap smartphones, a lot of people actually and I personally recommend looking at the Go phones. These are phones where you're paying anywhere from $50 to $100 at most for a smartphone that's almost equivalent to, I would say like a Galaxy S3 from back in the day. And that was not a bad phone, folks. That is the phone that actually got me away from the iPhone. The S3 was the first phone to really, I believe, to really start the trend towards this current generation of Android phones that we have. So, I mean, I actually got a lot of messages about these Go phones, and they're not bad. Are they as good as the current phone? You're not getting OLED screens, you're not getting 8 gigs of RAM, but most of these phones have the last generation and a half or so of Snapdragon processors. You're getting anywhere between 8 to 16 gigs of memory with an SD card slot so you can expand it. You're also getting 2 to 4 gigs of RAM, which for the everyday usage, you know, if you're not really multitasking, you're really just using it for just the daily uses for phones, text messages, some light browsing, playing games. It will handle all of that, because these phones, at the end of the day, it's sort of like comparing the like the top end Honda Civic to the very basic Honda Civic. At the end of the day, it's like, yes, it's a huge price difference between like $37,000. Actually, no, the most expensive Honda Civic is like $50,000. But the cheapest one can go as low as $12,000-15,000. But it comes with just like basic bells and whistles, but still a car, still does everything. And that's the same thing with these Go phones. Now, for those of you who are looking, are considering kind of mid-tier phones, so I'm talking about like the $200 to $400 like Motorola's and Samsung's, the LG phones and stuff. They're obviously just as good, and if not better than these Go. Obviously, they're better than these Go phones, but now you're approaching, if I would look into current equivalencies, either like an S4, S5 iPhone, like an iPhone 5, 5S, that kind of caliber phone for around $200 to $400. That is not a bad deal, especially new. I know a lot of people are looking at these phones used, but you know, sometimes you're running into issues when you can just go ahead and get a new phone. I'm not going to go too deep into these phones, but a lot of people are saying, are these bad phones to get? And I say no. You're obviously not getting the active features like some of the current phones do in terms of getting. Yes? Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm going to be talking about the one Apple product that I will endorse this thing in a bit here. Yes, I do endorse one Apple product. But there's that there. And but like the main part of this topic that I want to talk about are the holiday deals right now for the S7, S7 Edge, iPhone 6, 6S, 6S Pluses, and that generation of phones. Essentially, phones that came out about 2 years ago. I think you guys need to look, for a lot of people who are considering upgrading or looking for a new phone, these are phones that you guys could look into for an affordable rate. Because if you want to get a new Note 8, the new iPhone X, the LG V30, you're looking at devices that are going to cost you anywhere from $700 to $1,100 on top of having, or if you're going to finance it, you're looking anywhere between $30 minimum to almost $45, $50 a month on your bill. But some of these companies are offering almost $0 a month on even S6s and S6 Edges, the iPhone 6 and 6Ss and all that stuff. Those are all good phones to get. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people who are still satisfied with that generation and those years of phones, because are the current phones right now exponentially better than those phones? And the answer is no. I mean, they're obviously better in terms of performance, but are they twice as better, 3 times as better? And they are not, in my opinion. A lot of people, I know, I have a lot of friends who still own the S6s. My wife was using it until the battery died. The iPhone 6s as well too, the 6S. They all really love their phones, and they personally feel no need to upgrade to the iPhone X. And actually, a lot of my subscribers, actually a lot of you have mentioned that you guys are still rocking the Note 4, and I can attest to that. Either the Note 4 or Note 5. I went back and, you know, I still have my Note 4 from, you know, just as my backup phone. I replaced the battery, and it's still a gorgeous phone. I still feel like, even though it's fake leather, it's leather on the background, it feels good. I don't feel like it's that big. It's a good screen size. The performance is still there. It can still run VR. I mean, that generation phone can only run it for about 15-20 minutes tops, but it's still a really good phone that's still relevant. Now, it's not waterproof or anything like that. None of those phones in that generation were, except the active phones. But in terms of daily usage, as long as you get a good case from them, they're going to serve you well at almost no cost to your plan. A lot of these companies are trying to just get rid of their back stock because they're just sitting there, and so they rather you renew a contract with them and get these phones for $0 down for a 2-year contract, or you get zero, or you do the next plan, but it's like maybe at most $10 a month, and you're essentially getting a $600-700 phone that's not all that much worse than, like, even my S7. You know, I compare it to the S8, and it's not like it's worse. Obviously the S8 feels better, but it's not that much worse. And you can get it for less than almost $10 a month. I think I saw one for 15. I think that's the highest that I saw. But they're running these deals right now so they can clear the stock out to get ready for next year's waves of phones and everything. And it's also the year end. They're trying to close their books. It's definitely good to close on these. And so for those of you who are kind of contemplating on whether or not to get these phones, you know, brand loyalty aside, if you know, they're smart purchases. I'm personally actually thinking about getting the Note. Actually, I'm going to scratch that. That's for a different time and topic. And another plug-in to the other topics later. But what's really great about these holiday packages right now, especially, is that some companies are offering free SD cards, free VR units, free watches. It really depends on kind of where you are and which company you deal with. Right now, I currently have an offer to upgrade to a Note 8 with a free VR unit and $150 off a Gear S3, or the Getting Gears, new Gear S, essentially, the active version. And so, all in all, I think you can finance it for about $35-40, and then I'm getting the rest of it, and then I'm getting almost $300 worth of tech on top of it for free. If none of you see that as a good deal, then I don't know how else I can help you there. And then other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it there. Like, in terms of bargain phones, it's, I mean, they're all, I mean, you know, if you were asking me this question 3-4 years ago, I may have answered differently, because the phones were still working up to their qualities. But the fact that I can say that these current trends of Go phones and mid-tier, low-tier phones are almost equivalent to an S3 or an S4 from 3-4 years ago, I mean, that's the S3 is almost 5 years ago at this point. Those were good phones. You can still run current apps on those phones and everything. And the fact that I can say that now is kind of shows how far we've come. You don't, you know, even like if you compare the $200, $300 Motorola's or Samsung phone to a $1,000 iPhone X, is the iPhone X 4 times more powerful than these phones? And the answer is going to be no. It's like that with cars too. I like using cars as a good metaphor because it's a good way to think about it. If you think about just horsepower, so if you got a regular, you know, economy car that has 150 horsepower per se for 15,000, let's say the average is about $20,000 for 150 horsepower car. You go out and you try to get a 400 horsepower car, but those cars then all of a sudden go up to almost $80,000 to $100,000. There's obviously bargain versions of those cars, but if you're looking for a nice sports car with that much power, now you're in prices that are 4 times more expensive, but you're not getting 4 times more power. If you're paying 4 times more, you're like, all right, then I should get 4 times more, and I should have 600 horsepower, but you're not. But there's all these other things that you add in. But at the end of the day, is this 80,000 BMW really worth 4 Honda Civics or stuff like that? And like, when you look at it that way, is it really adding that much more value? And in my opinion, it's a no. Oh, sorry. I'm going to turn on something here. Oh. Apologize, guys. There's a issue with my stream here. Okay. Alright. Sorry about that, guys. There was just something up there. But going back to my metaphor, is it worth paying that much more for these things? And my opinion is it's a solid no on those. But let's move on to Let me see here. Let's go ahead and move on to topic number 2, and I actually want to talk about the new phones. So I want to talk about phones like obviously the iPhone X, more in depth than I did before. The Note 8, the LG V30, the Razer phone, the new ZTE dual screen phone I want to actually make a video on. And most importantly, I'm going to emphasize this phone because in my research in the last few days or so, in a few weeks, the OnePlus 5T has really stuck out to me. But let's go ahead and start with the iPhone, and let's talk about the good and the bad. Good thing, the screen's actually pretty beautiful. I'm not going to deny it. It's a good looking phone. It feels good. It feels premium. And I mean, there's nothing more to say. It's a good camera. It's a good face fronting camera. It's the general improvements from the previous phones. So I'm not going to knock it for its current capabilities because it's currently the best iPhone. And I'm going to emphasize the current best iPhone, not the best phone. I don't see it as the best phone. But in terms of where it is, if I had to choose an iPhone, I would definitely choose the iPhone X. It's obviously the top tier flagship model. It's obviously got some quirks that we'll talk about in a bit. Design wise, it doesn't really stick out to me in my opinion, but after playing with it, after checking out, my friend actually got the phone. I played with it, and I actually do like how they did the screens top to bottom and everything. I haven't personally used it, so I can't really give a full opinion on it. But I personally wouldn't get it. And after watching a lot of reviewers, I even saw a couple of avid iPhone advocates, Apple advocates, actually say that they wouldn't get the phone either, because of a couple of the reasons I'm about to point out here. The big thing for a lot of people still is that, I know it's a sour point for a lot of people, but the headphone jack. It's like this for a couple of the phones actually. It's not a really big deal for a lot of people out there. I understand this, but for the vast majority of the market, we still use wired headsets. You don't have to worry about battery life. You don't have to worry about, obviously, yeah, fine, the cable gets tangled here and there, but I don't have to worry about recharging it, as well as signal issues, and etc., etc. It's more the convenience of, I can afford to replace a $20, $40 headset if I really need to. If I drop them, are they going to break? More than a $100 Bluetooth headset? And yes, Bluetooth headsets have gotten a little bit more affordable these days, but at the end of the day, they're harder to replace. And the insult to injury is, let's say you lose. Okay, you do use a wired headphone. You can use a little dongle that comes with it. If that piece snaps off, you fall on it wrong, you put it into your bag wrong, something happens to it, you drop it, it breaks. It can also break the connection port on your phone. But more importantly, let's say the cable breaks or you lose the cable. You gotta replace it. I've heard some cases of people actually getting it replaced for free. That's cool and everything, but you still have to, until you get that cable replaced, you're SOL on using the headphone. You have to use the speakers. You have to go to an Apple store. You have to go out of your way to go get it replaced. Unless you buy an ample supply of them up front, which I know a lot of people aren't going to do, it's inconvenient. And I've had this issue with most of the Apple products in the last several years, almost the last 7 years with them. It's that you always have to get these peripherals to do basic things like connecting a stupid HDMI monitor to your laptop. you have to get a $40, $50 dongle. You want extra ports, you have to get another dongle. You get all these accessories on top of already spending $1,500 for a laptop. And it's kind of like, is it worth doing that when you can get a device that's half the cost, that has everything, performance is almost on par, and yes, design may not be as beautiful as some people may say, but these are the questions that you need to ask. And especially even now, if you're lured in by the whole, hey, you don't have to put any money down on the iPhone X, you can go in, trade in your old phone, get the credit, use that for your renewal license fee and everything, renew your plan and just get it for $40 a month, $50 a month, for 30, 40 month contracts I looked at. And so you're locked into this phone, and at the end of the day, you're going to be paying more than $1,000 in some cases. and you're going to be locked in this phone that's having some of these issues. It's not just the headphone jack. There's been issues of it actually cracking easier than their previous phones because of the way the glass is designed. There's been reports of it not working in the cold, and they're working on releasing a patch for it. Obviously, some of these could be rumor mills and whatnot. But I've already seen some videos of it not responding. Obviously, it's a simulated environment, so it could not be real world. But there's that, and the biggest thing for me is just the price. For what it is and what the competitors are doing right now, it's almost falling along the lines of the laptop argument. And before I continue, for those of you who are about to comment or are commenting, well, I buy for the OS. I buy these phones for the OS because I really like the Apple interface. I agree with you. There's a whole half the freaking population that prefers using their interface, and I won't deny that. But if you're struggling with your money, if there are weeks where you're like, oh, I wish I had an extra $50, or I wish I had the extra $10, or I wish I had this extra cash. Is it worth keeping that phone around for that very purpose? Because in my opinion, you can go out and get an iPhone 6s Plus and be perfectly happy with the phone, the camera, the photo quality, have a headphone jack. There's a ton of third-party accessories already out there for a ton of cases that you can get on the cheap. Because every new cycle comes out, you can get the previous generation stuff for a lot cheaper because most stores are liquidating it for the new stuff. And so whether online or in the store, you can definitely get something. And, you know, I don't want to drag on too long with the iPhone, but that's something to think about with the iPhone X. Is it worth the money? And I'm going to be bringing up the OnePlus 5T in a minute here, but actually Unbox Therapy is one of the YouTubers I personally follow. He brought it up the best. Is that phone twice as better than a OnePlus 5T, which is priced at $499, 8 gigs of RAM. It's got the latest Snapdragon processor, OLED screen, pretty solid camera quality, 20 megapixels, good cameras, good OS. Obviously not equivalent, not quite up there. It's like saying, all right, it's got 450 horsepower compared to 500 horsepower, but you know, it's not twice as better. And he brought up a good argument. It's, if you're going to be spending $1,000 and you one of those purchases is going to be a phone, wouldn't you, like, you can go out and buy the OnePlus 5T for $500 and get an on par phone, pretty much to the latest generation of stuff. It's a beautiful phone. It works for everything. By the way, the facial recognition, I might as well talk about the 5T. The phone, the facial recognition on that phone is far superior than the one on the Apple iPhone. And pretty much the majority of the reviewers have clarified this, because the iPhone, it's not always, the facial recognition is not always 100%. It confuses certain faces, especially those of us who are ethnic. There's a lot of people who have, they've mixed it up. There's a lot of videos out there already doing that. And it always takes a while because it's still processing data. The OnePlus T does it in like not even a few seconds. You look at it, it turns on. It's got the fingerprint power buttons where it takes a while. They've all clarified it takes a while to get used to, but once you do, it's seamless. And I think if you go back and watch his video on why you should not buy the iPhone X, I find that part hilarious. He's just like, iPhone X, unlock. OnePlus 5T, boom, done. Lock it again. Facial, boom, done. And it's literally that quick on that on that video. And just everything else in general. Let's put, like, for me, I don't mind the iOS. I don't mind Android. I personally focus on the tech side of things. What am I getting for my money? And for $1,000, I am not getting twice the performance, twice the power of the OnePlus 5T. And just when I think about that, he brought up a good point. It's like, you go spend $500 on this phone, and then you save $500. Could you imagine what you could do with that money? And he was just, and me personally, it's like, for my store, I can go out and buy an Xbox One X for the store on top of having a phone. You can buy this phone and go get another laptop. You can go buy freaking like $100-$200 pair of headphones for your phone that's not that much bigger than the iPhone 1X, as well as it also has a headphone jack, by the way. You could go get so many more things with that money that at the end of the day, you really have to ask yourself, is it worth spending that extra money? Is it really worth $500 more to use that interface in the latest? And the thing is, like, I'm talking in regards to those people who must have the latest and greatest phones all the time. It gets expensive. I haven't done it. I know it's kind of blasphemous for a tech channel to say that, but in the last few years, me opening up a startup business and being tight on cash and having to raise a family, like, I don't go needlessly spend money on devices that aren't worth it. Back when the S7 came out, it wasn't worth me upgrading to from my Note 4. I only did it just because it was starting to run a little bit bad, and it was due to an upgrade. It was a good deal. I got the S7 for a really good deal early last year because it was right before the S8 came out, and they just were offering a really phenomenal deal with it. But in general, I am not going out. None of these phones in the last 2 years, 3 years actually, have really stuck out enough to be like, all right, I really have to have that. Even Samsung, LG, all the other phone companies haven't really done anything to really, oh my God, I'm out of my seat blown away to upgrade. And the incremental upgrades that even Apple has done hasn't really impressed me. But in terms of wanting the latest and greatest, I almost compare it to like wanting to buy a new computer almost. You're like, oh, I can go out and buy a $1,500 base laptop from Apple, get an Apple Pro. But as a gamer, as well as for my editing purposes and stuff, you know, I don't have $1,500 lying around. And to get the specs that I want, I had to spend $2,000, $2,500 worth the amount just for the basic computer itself, nothing else. Within that same price point, I can get a really good gaming laptop or desktop, a case for it, a monitor, gaming keyboard, get security software for it, Word, Photoshop, the entire program. I could get good headphones for it, a good mouse. I can get a whole bunch of plethora of other things on top of it. No dongles, no nothing, because guess what? It has all the ports that you need. It's just, yeah, it's just, I think what it bottles down to me with Apple in the last few years is that it's not worth the money, in my opinion. For those of you who are going out of your way to get these phones, I don't judge you for doing it because I know you want the latest and greatest. But for those of you who are struggling with money, you don't need to get it. It's not the best phone it's not the best bang for your buck. Period. I don't think anyone can argue with me on that one. For $1,000, you're telling me you can't get an equivalent phone for less. Get all the bells and whistles and be able to save your money. If you're an avid iPhone user, then I really implore you, just get the previous generation or the last 2 generations of phones. You'll be perfectly fine. You're still in the interface and you still have everything you need, and you still own an Apple that's still beautiful. The iPhone 6 is still a good phone. You don't need to get it. And, you know, I'm going to move on to something else here. And actually, Alex K, thanks for tuning in here. It feels like a beta. Would I still recommend the Note 8? And honestly, this might shock some people, but I wouldn't. Not because I hate it. It's not worth the money either. I've had the Note 4. I played around with the Note 5. I played around with the Note 7 while it lasted. But at the end of the day, for the price, let's say if money wasn't an issue, if money wasn't an issue, I hands down would get the Note 8. I love the pen interface. I've been a fan of the Note ever since the first one came out. I had the Note 1, 2, 3, and 4 all the way. I love that Note line. They're the ones that started the bigger screens. I love it. If money wasn't an issue, I would get it. OLED screens and everything, everyone has it. It's almost equivalent. If you're into VR, bigger screen for VR, the better, in my opinion. The S7, the S8, the smaller versions kind of shrink the vision, but the Note 8, the bigger screens, will just enhance your VR experience if you're going to do it. And I'll be talking about virtual reality later on here. But if you're looking to do VR, then get the Note 8. It's got good sound quality. All the reviewers are giving it positive remarks. Some negative points on some of the bloatware. The Samsung camera interface. I mean, everything's overall better. I can't say too many bad things about it. In terms of quality, it feels cheaper than the iPhone X does. I mean, let's just be honest. They're not using all metals. They're using like a plastic glass type thing. I don't agree with it. If they were going to go that route, I actually rather than go back to the old pleather feeling. The glass it doesn't just do it for me. They get dirty really easily. They crack really easy. I mean, they started doing that with the S7, and here's my S7 Edge. And I had to get a new case for it because my son chewed it. But like day one, I only nicked it a little bit, and it gets cracked. I mean, it keeps the phone light. The heat transfer is better than I would on metal, in my opinion. But it cracks really easily, and it's ridiculously it's hard to replace. The screen's beautiful though. I mean, honestly, I love the Infinity display on the S8. I feel like the iPhone X screen is more gimmicky. I still like it. I prefer the just nice fluid look of the symmetrical look of the Note 8's screen. Overall, like, I can't really discuss too much about the performance or anything. It's all out there. All of us kind of know it. When I played around with it at the store, I was like, I kind of wish I had this phone. But obviously I can't afford it, so I had to walk away from it, but I would recommend it. But in terms of like a new favorite phone, I brought up the Razer phone, and at the end of the day, after really looking into it, I'm not going to get it, obviously. And even if I had to choose, I wouldn't get it. For $800, I would go back and get the OnePlus 5T. Now, the OnePlus 5T is not my absolute favorite, by the way, so I'm going to go on to that. But what was nice about the Razer phone is it was the first on certain other things. 120 hertz screen. It wasn't the first to do the dual speakers. I think there was a Motorola phone that had Beats audio, or that was an HTC phone, I believe. Either way, like, those were good speakers and everything. I just liked the simplicity of that phone. It was just a simple design. It was just clean and classy. I left this analogy out in the last video I made about the Razer phone, and the reason why the Razer phone just kind of like it appealed to me was I compared to think of it like a wedding. You have those weddings where it's like you have those really elegant, really gorgeous dresses that are just laced up, a lot of decorations, really decked out. The groomsmen, it's just decked out. A lot of money went into it, but sometimes the simple look, the clean, solid look is sometimes better in certain situations. Sometimes too much is too much. And what I liked about the Razer phone was it was just a simple, clean look, nice matte finish and everything. Yes, there were flaws on it, but in terms of just like first opinion, I was like, it looked good. I personally wouldn't get it right now. Just because it's one of those early. It's their first phone. There's going to be quirks. There's already quirks that would annoy me, especially for me. It's like I like to keep the phones like naturally out, without in the case. I got a case for this because glass cracked, and I have a baby, and I can't have him biting on the glass, so got to put it into a case. But in terms of if you're a gamer, if you're looking for something simple, if you can afford it, you're just like, you love Razer, you don't care about the extra firmware and stuff, you just want a decent phone, it's a phone that you might want to look into. It's got a lot of memory, good battery life, and if you game a lot on your phones, this might be a phone you want to look at. In terms of the LG V30 as well too, it's a solid phone too. I wouldn't put it up there in terms of it really sticks out to me. I put it along the lines of feeling like the 5T as well. It's great performance, good screen. I'm a fan of LG's the back button. They put I use the if you guys remember the G Flex phone. I did buy that when it came out just to try it out because I returned it after a week or so. It's a solid phone. I mean, I really don't have too much to talk about it just because it didn't really stick out to me, but it's there's so many Android phones out there And actually, Unbox Therapy and a couple other YouTubers really brought it up to the point where it's like a lot of the Android companies have really, they pretty much caught up. Most of the company's phones, the first renditions, a lot of people gave them negative remarks for kind of always being under Apple. But at this point, I believe most of the companies have been releasing phones that are on par, if not better than the Apple iPhones in terms of designs and pieces of tech and innovation as well too. Even Motorola, I'm gonna give them credit. I mean, they went peripheral crazy, but they made a modular phone. Oh, actually, speaking of modular, the one thing I liked about the Note 8 is that it's a modular. It's not the Dex dock. You can pretty much turn it into a laptop. Your phone is the operating system. It's the desktop. It's the heart of the system. You know, there was a company that kickstarted a project a few years ago that could that they were working on that, where the phone could be plugged into a laptop unit, a tablet unit, keyboard, a TV, and it was pretty much like the one sole. It was a one-all-fits-all phone. It failed because they were a little bit ambitious, but Samsung has taken the first leaps on that. I'm really surprised Apple didn't do that. But once again, Apple, this is not meant to be a jab, even though it's going to sound like it. They have not been the company of first in a very long time. They have not. And I think, you know, a lot of people can agree with me. Even the Apple fanboys can agree, but because the immediate argument back is, no, they're not the first, but they do it the best. They wait until to work out the kinks and they release the best. To those people, I say, no, they don't, because the first renditions of what they release aren't the best in the market. The best example I can give is the first Apple Watch. Apple Watch, smartwatches were out 2 to 3 years before the Apple Watch came out, and most of the companies have worked out the kinks in terms of putting a 3G service on it, memory, making them shatterproof as well as waterproof. The first generation Apple Watch didn't have any of those. Wi-Fi capability. Oh, it had Wi-Fi capabilities, but it was just like, really? You waited 2 years to bring out a watch that wasn't on par with what these other companies have done? Oh, they do it at their own pace, and what they do is the best. The one argument I will justify is their Apple Pencil. Yes, Microsoft and Samsung, Samsung especially, have released their own respective pens and everything. But I've used the Apple Pencil, and I will be talking about this guy here in a second. But it's, I'm gonna admit it, it's good. Like, I really like it. But at the same time, it's not 2 times, 10 times better than what Samsung has done with their pens. They've been doing it longer. They've been, and they're working on, they have their own products and everything. So is it that much better? If I had to choose, I say I would choose the Apple. I know it's weird, but I said it. But at the same time, I'm giving them one positive remark on top of the plethora of other things that they haven't done right. Is it worth me spending another $1,000 for it? No. But I give them points. I think that's the best pen in the market for right now. I haven't checked Samsung's latest pen. But if I'm wrong, please do correct me, people who are joining me live. Let me see what other people say here. Marilyn, I purchased a Motorola G5S Plus, and believe me, they work pretty good. That's ridiculous pay for. Yeah, exactly. I actually know what phone you're talking about. You don't need to spend $1,000 on a phone. It's excuse my language, it's asinine. You don't need to be spending that much money. You can have the latest tech and the most upgradable tech without having to spend the cash. I'll be talking about that, about VR and smartwatches in a bit here, but it's just crazy. When will the Gear S Frontier? Ooh, go on. Oh, hi, Rusan. I missed you, buddy. S Pen and Samsung Pay are the 2 main reasons for me. I mean, they were for me for a while too. The Dex is really cool. Honestly, like, I really, when they announced it, I was like, I wasn't blown away by Samsung's the Note 8 the press conference, but when they brought up the Dex to me, I was like, yes, yes, thank you for moving in the right direction. It's not mind-blowing technology. It's, you know, I believe Motorola actually, you gotta give Motorola credit. They've experimented with this before. They've experimented with it. It just, it was a little bit early, but hell, they are trying. Motorola is trying. Please give them props. Are they the best products? No. I think they're cool though. Like even the whole having the projector on your phone, it saps the crap out of battery life. But my God, like you're thinking in the right direction. They are centering. Pretty much everyone's lives is centering around these phones more and more. So why not expand their capabilities to do more? To be like, all right, if you're going to spend $800 on a smartphone, let it be the smartphone. Let it be your computer. Let it be your device that you're going to use for everything. The DeX, I don't think it's perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. You don't even have to carry around a heavy laptop. Well, I mean, it's a screen and keyboard, but it's it's the size of a small tablet essentially. But it's not going to cost you $800. So if you're an Apple user, you're going to have to buy the iPhone X, the new Apple Air, the Mac Pro, whatever it is. Now you're spending well over $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 when you can spend less than $1,200, $1,500 to get the same thing, same amount of capability, same things out of the phone. I mean, yes, I know the laptop's gonna have its own performance and capabilities, but in terms of portability and work usage, it's different. And yes, before you continue, yes, Photoshop and editors and stuff, you need something different. That's besides the point. They're really trying to centralize your lifestyle around these devices, and a lot of these companies are moving towards that direction. Not to say that Apple is not. I don't know what they have planned for next year. They said that the iPhone X is the start of their next generation of phones. So who knows? They're gonna follow suit. But once again, they're going to follow suit. They're not going to be the trendsetters. They're going to see how the market reacts to what Samsung has done, what Motorola did, and see if it's worth them doing it themselves. And when they do, you know, mark my words, they're going to get credit for doing it first. They always do, because, you know, when half the population says they did it, it's just crazy. I'm going to read some of the other comments here really quick. Huawei now has a DeX-like feature on their Mate. Yeah, I know Huawei has it too. Apple wins hands down in the tablet market. You see, I want to agree with you. Once again, it's the one product that I do endorse from them, the Pro tablet. I'll talk about that in a bit once again. But the best tablet, it's hard to give them the win. But I will. You know, I'm going to sit down and tell them they got it. They've done it. Am I happy with it? No. Do I think there's equivalent, better multi-purpose tablets out there? Yes. But in terms of right now, as for my editors and my stream team, they've been using it for all their multimedia stuff, all their social media stuff. It's been a solid performing thing, and they've more than justified their purchase. And like for me, okay, fine. It's the first time in a while where Apple has released a product that I'll concede to for now for this one. So Alex K, I've been at iSheep, you could say, but have to admit, since Jobs passed away, they really haven't done anything that blew my mind. I'm at the point now where Android has caught up, and if not, past Apple. And the thing is, I've said this before, if you've been following me the last 2 years, I know I've been MIA this past year, but I've always stand by my point that I'm not an Apple hater. I was actually a really big Apple fan. My family grew up with the Macintosh. I followed everything Steve Jobs did. I got the first several renditions of the iPod, up to the iPod Touch. I was in line for the iPhone 3GS, the iPhone 4, 4S. I got the first iPad 2. You know, I was on the bandwagon. When Jobs was around, yes, I mean, once again, they didn't invent new things, but they invented better ways of doing things. They did it better. They truly did it better. They aggregated things. And it's just, if you could even look back at the 2007 press conference of Steve Jobs first presenting the iPhone. Go back to when he presented the Macintosh, the new MacBook Pros, the iMacs. the iPod, the way this man spoke, the way this man pushed his company truly motivated you. It motivated me. It motivated me to start my own business. And Apple has lost that. I feel like they've really lost that drive. Now it's about profits. And you know what? They're getting comfortable. They through Steve Jobs, they garnered a huge loyal following, huge market base. But you can't blindly follow a company like that. And a lot of people have accused me of being a Samsung fanboy. And I don't blindly follow them either. I give them criticisms as well. They don't blow me away like they used to. They don't get me excited as they used to. But certain things make me go, okay. You know, okay, Samsung, you got my attention again. The VR got me my attention. They brought out the second mainstream smartwatch, and they kept doing even the modular TVs that they're doing crazy things over there. The rollable screens, LG, they're doing crazy things. Apple has not showcased anything like that. There's just rumor mills, people wanting things Apple to do. They have not done it, and it's just I can't support a company that's going to do that. They're just treating me as a money machine. Yes, all the companies are, but at least I feel like I'm getting the best bang for my buck. I'm getting the latest and greatest and newest piece of tech. I'm ahead of the game, not behind. Why is it that when you buy the next generation iPhone, a lot of people, and the recent Samsung Note 8 commercial that really disses Apple, I think kind of emphasizes it. You get the latest iPhone, and then yet when you see other Android users, you're like, oh, I can't wait until Apple does that or gets that. And I know a lot of people have said that, and you can't deny that. When is Apple going to do that? When is Apple going to bring their version out? Why do you have to ask that when you can have it right now? And more people are moving over to Android because of that very fact. Just Android offers you more variety, more price variance, more competition, and your own personal touch. My recommendation for you is don't pick any phone that I've mentioned here. Go out and actually shop. Don't just buy the phone that I recommend or one that another YouTuber recommends. Go out and actually look at these devices, feel them out, see what you like. See which fits your hand. Do you really like it? Because if you don't fall in love with it in your hands in the store, then you're not going to like it for 2 years. You don't want to be stuck with a phone that you're not going to be happy with 2 years or more. I just realized I went more than 20 minutes on this topic, so I do apologize, guys. I get a little bit passionate about this topic all the time. I'll talk about it more later. But I would still recommend a laptop or Chromebook. Oh yeah, that's very true. No, Chromebooks are definitely a good thing to do. But I'm going to go ahead and stop talking about phones here because I can't go over too long. I'm not going to be able to get other topics I wanted to, but let's go ahead and move on to I'm going to do VR. I'm going to skip smartwatches for right now and see if I have time at the end here. But virtual reality. I'm a big fan of virtual reality. If you actually follow my channel, if you look back at my old videos, majority of my videos are actually virtual reality videos. I'm a big fan of virtual reality, as well as mixed reality and augmented reality. It's I feel like it's the next step in entertainment in terms of just really interactive entertainment, and just in general, just being able to. All of us have wished, most of us have wished to visit somewhere else, to be going, to dive into a world that you've never been there before, and feel like you're really there. Growing up, I played a lot of video games, watched a lot of movies, and always fantasized. And the fact that now we're almost there. We're almost there, folks. I've been playing around with the Htc Vive, Oculus Rift ever since the DK1 came out. Dear God, almost over 5 years ago. I was one of the first people to get the Samsung Gear VR Innovator Editions on the Note 4, and my old videos are there to prove it. It still stands up. It's getting better and better. I recently tried out the new Samsung Gear VR interface, and I can tell you this right now, guys, it's definitely come a long way. The fact that you can actually sit down now and watch a full movie, play a full game for more than an hour without it overheating, it's a big deal. If you go back to my old videos, I actually had to, just to get an additional 5 minutes of time in virtual reality, I put my Note 4 into the freezer for about 5-10 minutes and then used it because it got so hot.
The fact that the phones now, the reason, if you're thinking about a reason to get the S8, this is why. It is definitely much more capable to handle the VR interface and systems than it was ever previously. These phones are getting better and better. And just with that, just it's going to come just so many things. And oh, I'm glad my chats, they're helping each other out. Hybrid Sand, DMD. Good conversation there. It's and especially during this holiday season, you guys are going to be, a lot of people are thinking about getting virtual reality units, and I think now's the best time. You have PlayStation 4s and 4 Pros and the PlayStation VR headsets all on sale. You could get these units now from the combined savings of $200-300 cheaper. And honestly, right now, aside from the Gear VR and Google Cardboard, that if you want a true virtual reality experience in gaming and stuff, get the PlayStation VR. If you can afford to do so, you're saving $200-300. I personally feel like it's a great experience. I do have one sitting right over here. It's the best affordable virtual reality unit in my opinion. It's not the best virtual reality unit, but for the best bang for your buck, that unit is perfect. I recommend it doing with the PlayStation Pro though. The PlayStation 4 can handle it, but it runs at 30 frames a second and you're gonna get fatigued. The Pro definitely runs it smoother. I've been able to play games for several hours at a time on the PlayStation VR. If you're going to get the PlayStation VR, I definitely recommend playing this game. I am not sponsored. I am not any way endorsed by Capcom or Sony. I mean, if they're watching, that'd be kind of cool. But I've never been. But playing Resident Evil 7 on the PlayStation VR is absolutely horrifying. Have I personally played it yet? No. My sanity, I don't think. If you actually go back to, not to plug in my old videos, but if you actually look back some of the VR horror videos I've done, I don't handle horror very well. I don't act. It's just because I don't handle horror very well. I watch scary movies for the thrill, but when I'm wearing the virtual reality units, I personally feel like I'm in the games. I'm one of those few people, I always say this, I stand by it all the time, I'm one of those few people that allow myself to be almost fully immersed in these games. There are several times when I think I'm actually there. Yes, I know I'm sitting in this chair in this bright room here surrounded by people, but when I put the unit on, my brain is so, like, I'm very gullible. I'm just a very gullible person in general, and with that said, I'm susceptible to virtual reality. And I freak out. I legitimately freak out. When you watch scary movies, you know you're in the theater, so you're just getting scared. So you're like, oh, you have nightmares later. But when I'm in VR, I feel like I'm physically there. I feel like these things are going to actually kill me for a split second, and that's why I freak out. I run. I get panic attacks. I sweat. I tear up. You get that with the PlayStation VR. You really get it with this game. I mean, one of my streamers on my stream team, she's been playing it. And I just set it up for her. All I did was set it up. And in the tutorial room, all it is the blank room, tutorial room. I put that on, immediately said no. Because as soon as I put that on, my body immediately started sweating, getting panicked in that small room. That's how good it is, and that's how clear it is. Now, is it the perfect experience? No, it still gets jerky because you're going to get motion sickness for a lot of you because a lot of you won't be used to like moving with the controller and being seen moving. You get used to it if you do it over and over. I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm pretty used to it now. There's just a lot of good games to it. Now, there's no true full-length game out. There's no like AAA title yet. I mean, this is probably the closest thing to a full-length game that you're going to get out of the PlayStation VR right now. But there are some good titles, especially now. They're on sale. I recommend trying out Batman. The Batman VR game. Star Trek experience is fun. Rush of Blood's definitely a fun game for the family. Well, I mean, mature audiences. What else to get there? Farpoint. Farpoint's is actually really good. If you get the VR Worlds, honestly, the VR Worlds disc is probably, if you just want short bursts of entertainment, VR Worlds is good. It gives you experiences that everyone can kind of handle. I made a little kid cry at my at my shop because of the shark experience. Parents were very happy about that. but there's just a lot. I don't recommend getting rigs. It's the least played game in my shop. Eve is a beautiful game. If you can get Eve for less than $20, do it. Eve is definitely beautiful. Overall, though, I definitely recommend at least giving it a shot. If you get it through Best Buy, I believe they're pretty lax with the return policy. You can get it used from GameStop for a cheaper price. And for those of you who live near my shop here in Pennsylvania, near outside Philadelphia, you can come in and try for $5. Just give it a whirl and see how you like it. Actually, my store's across the street from a GameStop, and I wish I worked on commission, because I've sold them several PlayStation VRs, because many of the customers have come, tried it for like 15 minutes, hour, all day, gone back and bought it from them. Have not returned, because they have their own unit, obviously. But it's definitely a bargain. Now, if you're considering buying, to move on, if you're considering buying the Oculus Rift, I definitely recommend doing so, especially with it being $150 off, $350 for the headset, the touch units, and the camera sensors. It's a good deal. I got two of my HTC Vive units for $800  2 years or a year and a half ago when they first came out, and they came with the same amount of stuff. But I gotta admit, I love the HTC Vive because it's more, in my personal opinion, it's more interactive in terms of how you can walk around and everything, and how all the controls are more smoother in my opinion. But the Oculus Rift is smooth, and the hand controls just feel so natural. And if you decide to go the PC route, there are so many more games available to you in the PC realm. Yes, you're going to have a decent computer. At minimum, you're going to be looking to spend about $1,000 to. I would recommend spending $1,500 on a computer that can handle it. But if you do, you're not going to regret it. I personally, I just love some of the games out there. If you're a horror fan, a lot of good horror games you can choose from. A lot of the games are adaptable to existing games. So you can play World of Warcraft, Minecraft in the VR unit. Not 100%, but it gets you in there. And once you do, and once you experience that, sky's the limit. Yes, probably next year they're going to be releasing the next generation headsets and whatnot with 4K poly capabilities and whatnot. But that just means that you can get these current units that a lot of people are happy with for a lot cheaper. And if you just want to have a really good time during your Christmas and whatnot, want to get some good laughs, either the PlayStation VR or the Oculus Rift would do you good. But the Samsung Gear VR is going to be the best bang for your buck. This is not to plug the Note 8 or anything like that, but even if you have an S6, S7, S8, or the Note 8, or if you got one of those refurbished Note 7s, you're going to be happy with the Gear VR. It is a solid experience. There's plenty of 360 videos that you can get out there and download. There's a lot of games in the market. Unfortunately for you guys, most of them aren't free anymore. When I first got the headsets 3 years ago, many of the games were free just because it was like the initial run of things. But there's still a lot of good content out there. And especially if you get the Gear 360, the 360 videos, they go perfectly with it. I've been recording several family videos at home, recording just fun moments, especially with my son growing up. It's he just turned 1 not too long ago. It's just being able to record that moment, those moments, and then be able to relive it. Being able to relive it from a different perspective, different view, and just being able to put on that headset and look down and feel like I can pick them up. It's just insane where this stuff is going. And you can experience that now. You can get these headsets for free with the new phone. Like I said earlier, you can go ahead and upgrade to a new phone, get some of these headsets for free, and get to share these experiences. I think some of the companies are offering the Gear 360 for free or at a ridiculously low price. Get it. It's going to be worth it. I think you won't second guess it. It's just been awesome. And if you're looking for a good time for the holidays and you don't want to spend too much, get the Gear VR if you own Samsung, and you'll get some awesome experiences out of it. I made my mom cry, laugh, got some good experiences out of my wife and my family. It's just a good time. And so if you're looking into VR, but definitely if you've been waiting now's definitely the best time to take advantage of these deals, especially these computer deals. There's some awesome desktop and laptop deals going around too. So if you've been waiting, now's the time, and I wouldn't wait too long because these deals are going to be eaten up. And you can just do that. So I've been going on for about an hour now, so I'm going to go ahead and end it pretty soon here. But I'm going to go ahead, and I have about 7-8 people watching right now. I'll leave the questions up to you guys. If you have any questions, want to hear my opinions on certain things, now's the time to ask, and I'll go ahead and do my best to answer for you guys. Give me a second to drink of water. Alexander Lee, you'll definitely be my first question that I'll answer. This is a completely random, but what are your thoughts on net neutrality? I am for it in terms of please leave it alone. Treat it like another utility. Let us shop for the best performance and not... It's entering a really gray area because it's a lot of us have become really dependent on the internet these days. And not to say that we absolutely need it. We don't need to have it, you know, a 100%. But it's when you start allow companies. I mean, yes, some may argue that, well, you know, if a company can pay for better service and better, you know, just better things, it's just like it gives them a competitive advantage, and that's how big corporations usually win. Even in the retail market, you know, most stores are like, well, you know what, we can just buy out the biggest space, and we can just make sure that we pay, you know, we can muscle out these smaller stores just by muscling them out by sheer power and will. And the internet space has really created a lot of overnight successes for a lot of people. It's really kind of leveled the playing field almost in terms of what private creators, private businesses, startups, social, like, you know, people, personalities and whatnot. I mean, just look at YouTube and Twitch in general. Over, you know, just within the last several years, you have a lot of influential people that came out due to this open platform. Now, YouTube obviously has gone through a lot of changes in the last year and a half. Hasn't really affected me because I haven't been really too active on here. I'm hoping to. My goal still stands from when I originally started this channel to hit 100,000 subscribers, and I'm motivated to get back on that again. But overall, just once you start allowing these companies to do that, I feel like you're killing capitalism in terms of, you know, if you're all about enabling the everyday people to start, because this whole country was built on the American dream that you can potentially start your own company and just build it up and build something for yourself. But when you can just be pinched out by a big company like that, it's going to become not a utopia. I forget what the word I'm looking for is, but it becomes a society where it's the several companies are running the world and they dictate your life. Even me right now, I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to technically compete with Amazon, not try to be them or anything like that, but to run my small shop, to sell products, to sell stuff online, you know, growing a customer base. I am working day in and day out. Monopoly, that's it. I mean, there are already monopolies out there, but it's like Amazon has killed a lot of even big businesses, but allowing the internet to stay open source really gives the platform to be more creative, and I can definitely attest to that in terms of, you know, I've decided to open up a game shop, you know, game lounge space and retail shop, and, you know, trying to compete with existing people who already sell online, who've been around for several years, companies with more deeper pockets than I do. The only way I've really managed to stay open this long is due to that openness, due to me being able to use the free services and apps that are available to me right now, to get my name out there, to undercut some of these bigger companies. Am I beating them? No. I've been able to take some business for them, but it's the fact that I could compete with them at least on a local level and some sort of regional level as well too. There are established websites that I've been able to kind of undercut in terms of getting some sales out there, just because I've been able to add the more of a personal side to the customer shopping experiences and whatnot. I mean, there's other things that I could have done. Even my channel, I have a handful of you watching me right now, but in terms of, I didn't pay for you guys to come watch here. Obviously, you guys have bigger channels that you guys are subscribed to, and you get notifications from them, and you'll end up watching them. And most of them pay for it. But at the same time, the way it's structured is, you know, you decide what you want to watch. You're not going to be forced to watch something you're not. I mean, sometimes you are, but you still have a choice, even as a consumer. You start getting rid of net neutrality and you start letting these companies take over. It's not going to be immediate, but over time, you're going to start noticing you don't have control over your own content. You don't have control over what you're looking for. Because people are going to be constantly, I mean, yes, there's Google AdSense, people are paying for advertisements and whatnot, but simply just scroll down. But once you get rid of that gray line, it could be game over. In like, it sounds morbid. It's a deeper topic. Long story short, sorry I went on about it. I'm against it. But in terms of that, let's see. Let's move on to the next question. DMD, what innovation needs to be done in the smartwatch market to make the product everybody wants? General thoughts on current products. I'm a big fan. I'm not wearing mine today because I just forgot to wear it. You can see you can sort of see the tan line. I don't think they need to be improved. Smartwatches is not where it needs to be. I think the current generation of stuff, it's where it needs to be. A lot of people have been talking about, like, well, they can do like the laser displays on your arm. You can text like this. Texting like this is very inconvenient. Having to message things like this. I mentioned in my when I first started carrying around the Pebble and the Gear Watch, it's like it's such a behavioral shift. It's not natural. Even like when people are like, oh, when you're looking at a phone, it's like looking at a book or a notepad. You know, it's semi-natural. But going from this and trying to minimalize all that information on a watch, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't wait to have a standalone watch. I played with it. I had the first Gear S. I used it as a standalone. I had a SIM card and everything. It was cool and nifty. I was listening to music. I had my headphone. I had a Bluetooth headset at the time and everything. It was cool not to have to carry around this thing. But when it came down to it, having to check numerous emails, going on websites, trying to get more apps and getting the information you need, you're better off sticking with this. For me, smartwatches are a good accessory to it. It's a good extension of the phone. Not a replacement, but a good extension. In terms of, I mainly use my watch for filtering all my notifications, doing quick responses, and for fitness, and some entertainment. But mainly those things. I don't use it for anything beyond that. If I had the NFC, when I had the Gear S, I used it to store all my my rewards cards, and like Samsung Pay and whatnot. But I just the current designs haven't appealed to me. That's why I haven't upgraded to the S3 or anything like that. And I currently have the Gear Fit 2. I probably will be getting the Gear Fit Pro soon as well, just because those circular designs aren't my cup of tea. If they've redesigned the Gear S, the original one, I'm a fan of the curved, the rectangular bezel. It looked more like a smartwatch to me. I know this is a sensitive topic for some people, but it's just it's personal preference. But in terms of, I think all the watches are great right now. Even Garmin made a really good watch actually recently. Fitbit's been improving their game. Everyone's been improving their game. In terms of the basic needs, every single one of you now has a solid choice. You might argue, well, I want to use Apple Pay and Samsung Pay or Google Pay. Then your choices become a little bit more limited, but you still have choices. But in terms of what you need it for everyday uses, it doesn't need to go beyond where it is currently. Me personally, I think where the next step is going to be is augmented reality. I messed around with Google Glass, the prototype versions when they first came out, Obviously, they're very gimmicky. It's not where it needs to be, but it's a step in the right direction. This is going to more of a HUD display is going to be much more natural to a lot of people. Going around, be able to look and just get the information you need. You're getting a call, you just swipe, or you just answer, or you use your watch. You sit there, you're like, oh, it's a, you know, you do a video call, whatnot. The concept is there. The technology is probably in the works right now. That's where I believe it needs to go, in my opinion. I think AR technology is where wearables needs to go. So, I mean, that's my opinion on that one. I can definitely talk more about that when I have more time later on. Let me see here. Alexander Lee, last one for me. Do you think that Google overall dropped the ball for this year, given the privacy fiasco and Google Pixel 2 lineup, given the screen and speaker issues? I definitely was disappointed in them. I don't believe they completely dropped the ball. I think it was... I feel like it was sort of like what Microsoft did with the Xbox One. They let it get to their heads. They let their success just really get into their heads, and I think they skipped a few steps, just like what Samsung did with the Note 7. You know, once you think you're riding high, you have a really good, you think, you know, especially in companies like that, you're dealing with a lot of employees, a ridiculous number of employees. Things are going to fall through the cracks. You're going to, you know, even happens here. There was a time early this year, and I don't need to go into it, on it, like, you know, I expanded a little too fast. I hyperextended myself, and a lot of things fell through the cracks. Quality went down, overall customer service went down, store performance went down, everything went down, and I almost had to close the store. You know, things like that happen. It's more along the lines of, if they don't bounce back correctly from here, they've dropped the ball. You know, for me, I feel like Samsung wasn't perfect in their bounce back, but they definitely made a comeback. You know, it wasn't perfect. I don't agree with everything that they did to try to make up to all the Note 7 purchasers and all the incidences, but no company is perfect. Have I forgiven them for it? I mean, as long as they made their apologies, and they did a thorough investigation, and they made sure to make sure like this doesn't happen again. You got a smaller battery this time because they wanted to put extra safety measures in it. Give them credit for that. Google, all right, this is your second phone. You own Android, so it's like they're fine on that aspect, but it's, you know, they're too big to fail, to be honest. But we'll definitely have to wait and see what they do in 2018 and with the Pixel 3 or something else, and what they're going to do about the privacy issues and whatnot. They definitely got their hands on a lot of other things. I think we have to be more worried about what they're doing with the quantum processing and the AI units that they're working on. There's a couple other things that we should work on, but if you realize, I didn't mention the Pixel 2 at all during this review, because at first I was going to, and then just pricing and what the other competitors have brought out, I just feel like it's like, you know what everyone else is doing. You have all those cash reserves, and you do that with those issues. It's disappointing. It's kind of on the same level I had with Apple year in, year out. And so there's just that. And I think that's the last question that I had on here from you guys. So I did mention throughout the video, I'm going to point it out right now. Once again, one product I do endorse from Apple is their iPad Pro. Right there is iPad Pro. Oh my God, it's so dirty in the light here. Yeah, glass is not always the best, guys. But pretty much what makes this thing actually really good is this guy. For multimedia work, for artists and stuff, this is definitely... I'm not going to give him too much spotlight. I'll give him credit for it. I like it. I wouldn't buy it still because I don't have the money for everything, but that's it. But Alexander, DMD, Hybrid, all of you that joined me live today, thank you. I really appreciate you guys joining me live here. I know it's late, so thank you guys. For those of you who are watching the post-recording of this and actually sat through and watched this entire video, thank you. I'm glad that you guys, and you might not agree with everything I said. And that's not the point of why I did this channel. I wanted to do this channel so I can do my best to present the other side of the aisle, to try to give. I know it's semi-biased because of my personal preferences, but still, I like to hear the other side, and I don't want to just hear arguments of, well, they just suck. It's Apple, or it's Samsung. You're just a fanboy. Present your case. Like this day and age, we're always so quick to just judge and blah blah blah. Like, have a conversation. I know it's just technology. A lot of people don't care. I personally like to keep up to date with it because it's the future. How my son and my children are going to interact in the future, how I am, how I'm going to interact with my business and my customers. That's all stuff that you have to think about. So please, let's go ahead and continue the conversation. Go ahead and leave a comment down below on whether or not you agree or disagree with me. Back to my earlier statement about what would you do with an extra $500? Let me know. As well as other topics you guys like to me talk about in future live streams. Because I definitely, I will be honest, I don't have time to really record, production videos like I did before, but I can definitely do these and then clip them out for you guys. I personally feel like this is a lot more personal. It's nothing scripted. This is all just me spitballing it out for you guys, giving my personal take on things. But I really enjoy this time with you guys. So go ahead and leave questions down below. I'll do my best to add those topics in the next video. But until then, thanks for tuning in for those of you who tuned in, and then we'll see you guys in the next live stream. Take care. Ooh.